Now, the most basic form of a physics simulation in Blender is a rigid body simulation. You're probably thinking, what in the world is a rigid body? Well, allow me to explain. Right here on the right-hand side within our physics properties, you can see that there is a rigid body option. With our cube selected, I'm going to go ahead and enable that. And now you can see we have all of these options. We have now added a rigid body to our cube. Now, if I go ahead and raise up my timeline down here, you'll see that we have a little play button. If I go ahead and play this right now, let's just watch what happens. Our cube fell. So the reason our cube fell is because now it can be interacted with physics. If we go ahead and disable this rigid body by clicking on this X and I press play, nothing will happen because Blender doesn't recognize the cube as a physics object anymore. Let me go ahead and add this rigid body back. Now you'll see that within our rigid body options, we have type active and passive. These are super important. I'm going to explain the difference between these two. In order to easily show you the difference between these two, I'm going to click on my cube, Shift D to duplicate, and I'm going to show you that one cube is going to be passive and one will be active. So this one in the middle, I'll keep that as active. This one right here, and you can see that we've already duplicated the physics as well. Whenever you duplicate an object, the physics will carry over as well. I'm going to switch this type to passive. Now let's see what happens when we press play. You'll see that one cube stays in place while the other one will fall down. Now, they both have physics properties, but one stays put. You can think of passive as sort of a floating platform. Similar to if you've ever played Mario, you can jump on these floating platforms. You can still land on these platforms, but they'll never move, okay? So our physics world still looks at this object as a physical collision object, but it won't move. Let me show you one more thing. Now here's where this really starts to make sense. I'm going to pop out of my camera view here. I'm going to go to my side view. I'm going to move this cube right under the other cube. All right, let's go ahead and move this right here. Now it doesn't really matter what size it is, this or that, but let me go ahead and press play for you guys. And you can see that our cube lands on top of the other one. Now to further demonstrate this a little bit better, I'm going to go back to frame 1. I'm going to give our top cube just a little bit of rotation here. I'm going to bring it up. Now, again, a shortcut for playing our animation or our physics simulation is spacebar. So I'm going to go ahead and hit spacebar. And you can see that our cube lands on top of our other object. Remember, our bottom object is passive and our top object is active, which means it can be acted on by gravity. Our passive object cannot. Now, typically when I have one or more objects in my scene, I like to enable this one setting. You go up here on the top right, you'll see this little arrow. Now there's this option within this huge menu here called random. I'm going to click on that. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to have multiple objects in our scene that have a slightly different color so we can easily differentiate between them. You don't have to enable this, but it helps me out a lot. As you can see, when we play back our animation, we have a cube falling on top of our passive object. Now I want to show you a quick example of why this is really cool. If I take our bottom cube and I scale it down like this, maybe scale it up a little bit, I'm going to give it some rotation. All right, and what's going to happen here is our cube should fall on top of our platform and it should slide right off. Let's go ahead and press play. And just like that, we have a physics simulation. Now, if you're kind of sick of the cube sliding off and then having to go all the way back to the beginning, one quick thing you can do is hover over this end keyframe right here, or this end frame, and you can just slide this back so that as soon as that cube exits the scene, we're only going to frame 50 here. So if I play this back, now you'll see that we're playing this on a loop. And that allows you to instantly visualize something without having to go all the way back on your timeline. Now, this is super cool and all, but what else can we do with our physics simulation? Well, if we pause this, just like in the real world, there's different aspects of different objects. For example, this object has a size, which if we go to our item property is right here, okay? We have our dimensions and our scale. We also have our mass on the right, which is basically the weight of an object. They could have put weight there, but they decided to put mass instead, make it a little bit more scientific. Now right here, it's using the metric system, so we're at 1 kilogram, but if I wanted to, I could raise this to 100 kilograms. I could go back to frame 1, press play. Now you're not going to see too much of a difference, but we can also mess with the gravity as well. So as you can see here, there's a lot of different options. I want to go over some of these options as well. Dynamic, we're always going to keep that checked. That basically means that this physics object will act in a dynamic way with our simulation. In other words, it will automatically fall, and there's really no animation. It's all relying on physics. You can see that there's a button right below that that says animated. We're not going to check that. That's more of an advanced feature, but basically what that means in short is that we can also mix in our own custom animations with physics. It's a little more complex, so I'm not going to be covering it in this course. Now, right below, this part that says collisions, that I am going to cover.